Chapter 22. You've lost them. We were just too late, Chairman Freeth. Then find them, Tragon. They were in an ordinary small fly car like any one of thousands. How would you suggest I set about it? His only answer was a strangled cry of fury. Anya Fargen was very sorry to hear the news of Waldo's arrest. He was always a headstrong young man, she thought. Still, as she pointed out to Sarah, he was in no immediate danger. The authorities always did things according to the rules, whether the rules were laid down in the statute book or merely the custom of years. It would take them time to organize the hunt. Then there might be a chance of saving him. And only then. How? You'll see, said Anya. The doctor, who had set the fly car to automatic on a course given him by Anya, looked up. How's the arm? He said. I still can't move it, she said, but the feeling is beginning to come back. It's lucky he was at extreme range. It'll take a few days, but I'll recover. That sounds like the voice of experience, said the Brigadier. I must admit, it's not the first time I've been hit. Her mind flickered over the memories. The housekeepers on Paracon seem to lead surprisingly full lives, said the doctor. That was as pretty a piece of unarmed combat back there as I've seen in years. Anya heard the compliment with a wry internal smile. To be forced into violence at all was in itself a failure, or that's what old Darcy would have said, even as he taught her the skilful use of violence. Thank you, Doctor, she said. I must say the same to you. A similar discipline, I expect, he replied. I call it Venusian Aikido. It's been most helpful to me over the years, but I always regret having to use it. In a sense, I feel I've failed. Who was this man? Her thought was evidently reciprocated by the Brigadier. If you'll forgive me, he was saying. Who are you, and where are you taking us? You're not really the President's servant, are you? Was she? Or had she just been using the position as a front? That too, of course, but I have loved him and protected him, she said. And now I shall never be able to return. I'm taking you to my real home, she added, in answer to the Brigadier's second question. As for who I am, wowie zowie, interrupted Jeremy, who had been looking out of the window, not listening to the conversation. Look at that! It must be the size of a rugger pitch. Anya followed his gaze. A space freighter landing. Yes, the interplanetary freighter docks are scattered all round the perimeter of the city, of every city. That thing's a freighter, said Sarah. You mean it's full of goods of some sort? Anya nodded. Raw material coming in for processing. Rapine? Asked the doctor. Exactly. And going back, everything Paracon can manufacture from it. They say that there's a corporation freighter either landing or taking off from somewhere on the planet for every 20 breaths you take. And I say those freighters are killing us as surely as the corporation killed the land below us. They all looked down. It looks like sea, said the Brigadier. Are we flying over the ocean? No, hang on, he said. It looks just like... I remember once when I was flying from Kathmandu to Patna. From the air, the edge of the jungle, looked just like a coastline. That's not the sea. Kathmandu, Lethbridge Stewart, said the doctor. Backpacking, were you? Dropping out and tuning in? You must have looked rather fetching in a kaftan. Under cover, said the Brigadier shortly. He turned back to Anya. It's a desert. She looked at the doctor. She suspected that he had come to this conclusion long before. He saw her looking at him. A gigantic dust bowl, isn't it? He said. Does anything grow on Paracon any more? Practically nothing, she answered. All the accessible fertile land was turned over entirely to rapine. You can see the result. But that's terrible, said Sarah. There are a few patches of wilderness left, where the terrain made it difficult to farm. That's where we're going now, to the largest. It's known as the Lacan, the place of no hope. Oh, cheers, Jeremy muttered in Sarah's ear. That's all we need. Anya ignored him. I heard the president say that Paracon is a paradise. It's more like a hell, she said. Oh, it used to be a paradise in earlier times. A lush green paradise where the people hunted and grew their crops, giving their thanks to the earth and the sky, living real lives, not lives of illusion and fantasy. Oh, the golden age, said the doctor dryly. In every culture I've ever met, they've had a legend of an ancient golden age, and there's usually no lack of guides claiming to know the way back. This is not legend, Doctor. It's fact. I'm not talking about a dream world with no pain. To seek that is to be trapped in the more insidious fantasy of all. I'm talking of a world full of pain, but it was real pain, to be suffered and borne, knowing it would be balanced by joy in the spirit. I'm sorry, said the doctor. Please, she said. It didn't matter. Why should she take offence? It was far more important that they should understand. The president told you that rapine is a generous plant. Rapine is greed. It takes the best from the earth and puts nothing back. It's taught us all how to be greedy too, until our cravings have become the whole of our lives, and our spirit is dying from lack of joy. She stopped short. When she spoke again, it was almost to herself. And I can't tell if my heart is breaking for the sorrow of it, or being torn apart by rage. For a while, the only sound was the faint hum of the fly car as it made its way over the endless waste below. The silence was broken by the doctor quietly echoing the earlier question of the brigadier. "Who are you, Anya Farjan?" he asked. "Who is she? Where does she come from?" In the very nature of things, Freeth's expression could never be described as thin-lipped, but his mouth had tightened to a down-curved grimace, which made his feelings quite evident. "That is precisely what I am checking at the moment," replied his vice-chairman, surveying with dead eyes the data coming up on the screen before him. Freeth sucked at a gap between his teeth. "To be outwitted by a housekeeper, and these are the men to whom you entrusted our entire future. I must admit that I am the tiniest bit put out. They have been suitably disciplined, I should hope so." A more vigorous suck having proved fruitless, a plump finger was poked into Freeth's mouth, and the tiny nail successfully extracted the recalcitrant bit of food. Having inspected it closely, he reinserted it into the maw and, with plain enjoyment, re-finished his breakfast. "Here we are," said Tragan, the back of his neck fading from royal purple to lilac. "Anya Farjan, bond servant to the president. Previous employer, Katyan Glessy, deceased. Highly recommended. Previous records unavailable." "Unavailable," said Freeth, peering at the screen. "Destroyed in the Temple dissolution riots. You remember the fire at Paracon House? How could I forget? I lost 2 cases of pre-rapine vintage wine." "So that's that," said Tragan, switching off. "Our only lead is this Katyan Glessy, correct?" "It would seem. And she's dead." Tragan's face was quivering dangerously. "We shall have to wait for them to show their hand." "You are not proposing to abandon the search?" "Of course not. I shall put my best men onto it." "Now there's a comfort," said Freeth. "Who am I?" Anya recalled the timeless days she had spent with that question stuck in her mind, like a lump of hastily swallowed, undigested, unwanted food in a rebellious stomach. True, there was a fierce hunger, but not so much for an answer, answers came tumbling in, each more unsatisfactory than the last. More to be rid of the question. The doctor and the brigadier would be happy with a simpler answer than those with which she had tried to satisfy Darcy. And yet, after all, what could be simpler than the answer he had accepted at last, with his familiar giggle joining her own uncontainable laughter at its absurdity? The name Katian Glessy was no more real than the name Anya Farjan, which had been plucked out of the air, and Anya smiled at the expression, by her teacher on that very same day. Or maybe it was just as real. She had been Katian Glessy for all of her life, after all, and that stretched infinitely backwards into the darkness of the pre-memory void. One day she had awoken with the shocking realization that it would be intolerable to be Katian anymore. Katian's life as a research biologist dedicated to the manipulation of the molecular structures in the heart of the rapine cell, with the object of making it ever more productive, ever more versatile. This life had for many years been as absorbing as her viscid, exultant dream. Perhaps it was inevitable that she would wake up. Ordinary life seemed to be nothing but an irritating interruption, she told them. But then I fell in love. Calden used to make me laugh. I used to tell him that that was the only reason I put up with him. He didn't work. He didn't do anything much. He loved talking and thinking. Dangerous things to do on Paracon. She stopped talking. She put up her hand and touched her cheek. She was surprised to find that there was no tear to wipe away. "What happened?" asked Sarah gently. "He disappeared, and so did a number of his friends. 3 of them. I suppose they thought it would be too dangerous to put them on show. They might have said the wrong thing. I was frightened for my own life. At the very least, they might have taken my job away from me, and I couldn't bear the thought of that. I kept very quiet and hid myself behind the work. But all the time I could hear his voice. I could hear his laughter. And I came to realize what it had been hiding. Little by little, I too came to understand the horror of what we were doing, of what I was doing. And the time came when I couldn't face it any longer. But I didn't know where to turn. I felt polluted, defiled. I was slowly going mad." "What did you do?" asked the doctor. "I ran away." Literally running, first standing in her lab as still as a carved figure, as if the slightest movement would awaken the demons of thought, then finding herself running a tearing pace through the corridors of the research building, through the corridors of her mind, desperate to outpace the snapping, snarling pack which sought to destroy her. It was the running which very nearly betrayed her. Only the guilty ran on Paracon. Stopped by a security man as she left the building, thrusting her pass at him, gasping out an excuse. "Late for a meeting with my controller. Please, 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 I shall be late." She had then forced herself to walk, albeit with a little skipping run every few yards, until she fell into the seat of her fly car, sobbing for her breath, and took off, flying high, 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 to distance herself from the vileness she had left behind. Flying in a desperate automatism for a time out of time, she at last calmed down enough to be able to look about her. She had left the city far behind. The circling horizon contained nothing but the dull yellow-brown of desert. An empty sky, an empty land, but still her mind wasn't empty. The insistent images, the nagging voices that she was trying so hard to escape were still there. She increased her speed to the maximum. The low hum rose to a panic-stricken shriek. But still it wasn't fast enough, and she had no idea where she was. She was flying south, at least she knew that. Her memory told her that the ravished earth extended to the faraway coast without a break. But now, almost dead ahead, she could see a large patch of green. The Lacan. What else could it be? She swung the craft towards it, yearning for it as if she were lost in the desert and thirsting for water, as if in its greenness might lie the quietness she craved. As the fly-car hurtled down, she fought with the controls, trying to hold it back as fiercely as she tried to contain the turmoil of her thoughts, and with as little success. The screaming of the Dryad in full reverse thrust, the screaming in her mind, the sound of her own voice screaming, the compassionate greenness of the Lacan opening to her view, and at last the benison of peace as the screaming stopped. "Look," she said, "there it is. That's where we're going." The doctor moved to the controls and altered course towards it. The green was growing visibly as they approached it. "I have come to love the Lacan," Anya continued. "Whenever I come back to it, it feels as if I were going out of a dark room filled with choking smoke into the fresh air, into the sunlight. Oh, I know the forest is dangerous, full of horrible creatures. After all, the Lacan is where they hold the hunts for ER. The place of no hope," said the brigadier. "Exactly. But at least it's real, and as it was meant to be." Now they could distinguish the individual trees and the clearings at the edge like little beaches. "It looks like an island," said Jeremy. "Yes," said Sarah, "a green island in a dead sea."